So I'm here today to tell you enough is enough, and it's time for a revolution. My name's Phil Craig, and I'm going to be leading a new political party called the Referendum Party, which is going to launch on the 9th of November. The Referendum Party is a battle cry. It's a call to arms. It's the start of the next chapter in our history. As South Africans, we've been shamed into silence. Being called racist has become a shock collar that's used to control us. We've reached the point where nobody wants to say, the emperor is naked. Well, the emperor is naked. Our country is run by arrogant, incompetent, corrupt imbeciles. Cyril Ramaphosa might be my president on paper, but in my heart, and in the hearts of many listening today, he is the lead clown in the world's least funny circus. Our government is a total disgrace, and in the Western Cape, the majority of us have never once in 30 years voted for it. And that government cannot and must not get a free pass just because it's black. And neither should the majority of black voters who repeatedly insist on electing it simply because they're too racist to vote for a party led by somebody of a different race.
The issue of Cape independence is a threat to everybody. Cape independence is equivalent to putting an Israel in South Africa. Because once that Israel is established and the Cape colony establishes itself as it did in the 1800s, you will see that the West...
If we say the Western countries are plotting to divide and conquer South Africa, you might doubt it. It's because for that, they have to unite and join forces to challenge a powerful African country like South Africa. But what if they could use the white population living in South Africa, provoking them to demand to divide the country? This seems doable because the white people are citizens of South Africa. Their demand will in no way be considered a master plan of the Western world. Well, that's what is being done in South Africa. White, rich people living in Cape Town want to separate it from South Africa and make it an independent country where only they will live. They don't care what's happening in South Africa. All they want is a separate country, which the West could use to invade neighboring African countries in the future. So, how is all this being done under the name of Cape independence? Let's know about it in this video. So, what is happening in South Africa? Well, in South Africa, the colonial legacy remains largely intact, unlike in many other colonized nations where the colonizers have departed. The colonizer is always an unwelcome, destructive, and never fully satisfied visitor. Currently, it seems the greedy colonizer has set sights on breaking the Cape from the rest of the country. The Cape Independence Party does not consider the democratic system in South Africa ideal and is fervently pursuing a return to an old world order like that of apartheid. In the rush to claim territory through colonial conquest, the Cape Independence Party now seeks ownership and control over the Cape. It's determined to separate the Cape from South Africa and establish a sovereign state. To justify this move, the party argues that the people of the Cape possess a distinct cultural and linguistic identity. Last year, the Freedom Front Plus introduced the Western Cape People's Bill, aiming to gain recognition for Western Cape Tonians as a distinct group. Self-determination has become the rallying cry of the predominantly white Cape Independence Party. There is a cynical portrayal of self-determination as secession, with secession, in this case, seemingly serving as an understatement for white supremacy. However, the call for secession directly opposes national unity and is unpatriotic. It represents active resistance and disregard for majority rule in an African nation. The push for secession contradicts the principles of national unity. Yet, the party talks about reclaiming the Cape of Good Hope by establishing its own advanced nation on Africa's southern tip. Research conducted by Victory Research indicated strong support of 62% for Cape independence among white individuals in the province. In contrast, only 31% of black individuals expressed support. This means that the white population of Cape Town wants to have a country of its own, irrespective of what happens to South Africa in general. They simply don't care about that at all. The white population says that the poor performance of the national government is undeniable. In nearly all aspects, South Africa is failing and headed towards a dystopian future. Therefore, instead of owning South Africa, they feel they should better separate and allow South Africa to fall. Not only is it unpatriotic, but seditious as well. However, white supporters of the movement say that controlling their economic policies and resources could lead to more efficient and beneficial economic development tailored to local needs. They even believe that the region's cultural or ethnic identity is distinct. Therefore, only independence can preserve and promote this unique identity. However, if this argument is followed, every state of the 50 states of the US has to be separated, much like every city in every European country. But who is behind the Cape Independence movement? Well, the Cape Independence Party is advocating for self-governance for the Western Cape Province within South Africa. Some proposals also include parts of the Eastern and Northern Cape provinces. Essentially, the movement aims to detach Cape Town from South Africa and establish it as an independent nation. The Cape Independence Party initially had around 1,000 members nationwide in 2009. It's interesting to know that the party has no history or strong objectives that could prove that Cape Town's independence is the only solution to the problems. This is because no intellectual minds were behind the creation of this party. Rather, it stemmed from a Facebook group in 2007, and the party is led by Jack Miller, an entrepreneur from Cape Town. In other words, it's basically a group of white people who felt on the internet that Cape Town should be separated from South Africa. It was only an idea with no strong arguments to justify the demands. However, the party knew it would be difficult to make a case and a show without objectives. Therefore, ironically, the party started finding problems that could be cited as objectives of Cape independence. Later, on March 17, 2009, the party's website was vandalized, displaying an image of a black devil and contentious language. Party leader Jack Miller speculated that the attack, which required significant funding and resources, may have been orchestrated by one of South Africa's major political parties, the African National Congress, or the Democratic Alliance. Later, in 2017, the Cape Party initiated legal action concerning a poster displaying the words, "Fuck white people," in bold black and white letters, seeking to classify it as hate speech. This poster had been on display since 2016 as part of an art exhibition titled The Art of Disruptions at a gallery in Cape Town. The court ultimately ruled that the poster did not constitute hate speech, but fell within an art exhibition's context. However, this suggested that the Cape Independence Party was trying to appeal to white people and exploit the narrative of hate speech against them to justify the separation of Cape Town. Put simply, the party appeared to be safeguarding white people in Cape Town and forming a country based on their desires. Throughout various incidents, the Cape Independence Party sought to present the separation of Cape Town from South Africa as the only solution to all problems. As a result, the outcome of the 2021 elections reflected public sentiment towards the party, with the Cape Party receiving a total of 17,881 votes overall and securing only one seat in the city of Cape Town. But despite this, the party leaders decided not to end the movement. They are a rich white elite class with plenty of money to keep the movement alive until more and more people fall for it. But is it possible for the Cape Independence Party to separate Cape Town? Well, constitutional law scholars like Pierre DeVoe argue that the party cannot achieve secession without inciting a revolution. Since the Constitution establishes a unitary state, he argues that threatening the country's unity would amount to treason. This is because this will encourage other cities and even towns to demand separation, leading to a complete division of the country. For any state, this means the worst case that has to be avoided for the good of the majority. Legally, sedition and treason are grave criminal offenses that undermine the authority of the state and jeopardize national security. Sedition involves actions or speech inciting rebellion against the state's authority. At the same time, treason entails betraying one's allegiance to the state, often by attempting to overthrow the government or aiding its adversaries. And that's exactly what the Cape Independence Party is doing. Any efforts to advocate for Cape Town's secession from South Africa could be construed as acts of sedition or treason under South African law, particularly if they are perceived as aiming to destabilize the country or undermine its sovereignty. Divisive movements like calls for secession can exacerbate these tensions and undermine the country's delicate balance of power and unity. Secessionist movements challenge the legitimacy of the central government and can lead to disputes over territorial integrity, resource allocation, and political representation. governments typically respond firmly to secessionist threats as they undermine their authority and capacity to govern effectively, potentially resulting in political instability, social unrest, and even violence. The Cape Party intends to seek consensus with major political parties in the Western Cape, such as the Democratic Alliance. However, Democratic Alliance Federal Executive Chairperson James Self played down the Cape Party's significance, asserting that it is not a party we take seriously. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. The difficulty in understanding the party's initial purpose arises because it is challenging to establish why the party was formed in the first place. Despite the party creating its own manifesto, the fundamental objectives and values on which the party stands seem weak. This can be attributed to the fact that the party originated from a Facebook group. Therefore, supporters of Western Cape independence are confronted with a harsh reality. The idea of secession is legally unattainable and fraught with risks. Despite constitutional provisions allowing for provincial self-determination, the process of secession remains ambiguous and could provoke military intervention by the ANC. Economic factors further underscore the impracticality, with more than 80% of South Africa's resources located beyond the province's borders. Moreover, any attempt at secession is likely to provoke ANC intervention, potentially consolidating power in the hands of the ruling party across all provinces. Moreover, secession could worsen economic challenges for the Western Cape, given its reliance on resources from outside the province. So, does it mean the Cape Independence Party has failed? Well, not necessarily. Initially, the idea of Cape separation was met with ridicule nationwide, but it gained significant traction over time. For instance, a 2021 poll made headlines by revealing that most residents in the province supported the idea of holding a referendum on secession. This increasing momentum led to the establishment of the Western Cape Devolution Working Group in September of the previous year, which brought together the dominant political force in the region alongside organizations openly advocating for Cape independence. Their goal is to decentralize power from the national government of South Africa. Several groups have emerged to bolster this sentiment, including the Cape Independence Advocacy Group, the Cape Independence Party, the Cape Colored Congress, Cape Shit, Gatvol Capitonian, and the Sovereign State of Good Hope. The interest in Cape independence among various minority groups is understandable, given the policies implemented by the ANC during its 3 decades in power. Advocates of Cape independence often point to the abandonment of race-based legislation enacted by the ANC as a crucial promise. But are all white people supporting the Cape Independence Party? Well, the answer is now. Only those white people with business interests linked to Cape Town separation want an independent Cape. However, for the intellectual white class who understands how important national unity is, the idea of Cape separation is not only ridiculous but racist and is based on segregation.
Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, which I'll come back to in a moment, but also it is about winning the support of the majority of South Africa so that we can change our country through being in government and fixing the problems that so many South Africans live with. When we received the application from the referendum party, Action SA was very firm with its partners to say, look guys, there's no point in having a discussion here. We work on a consensus basis and we will never support the idea of this party joining us. To circle back to your question, it's constitutionally offensive and historically offensive in South Africa to say that the only solution for the people of the Western Cape is to secede from the Republic of South Africa. We live under a constitutional democracy. That constitution talks about 9 provinces, it talks about a sovereign South Africa, and actually we are here to unite South Africans. The idea that the only thing that can be done to help the Western Cape is to divide South Africans is offensive to us.
Well, I suppose in part that, if we focus a little bit on the desire for that referendum, it almost speaks to...
If the Cape Independence Party is seen with this perspective, where rich white people want to have their personal country, much like apartheid South Africa, things start to make sense. The whole demand for this independence perfectly fits in this and not in the idea that all people want it. However, if only white people are listened to and Cape Town is separated, then there will be a domino effect that the West has to follow as well. Western countries then have to declare independence for all towns and cities where black people live because they are culturally different. Therefore, the South African government is highly unlikely to accept any attempt by their second wealthiest province, and potentially up to half of South Africa's territory, to break away. Moreover, there are scant legal obligations for the South African government to honor such initiatives, and some have already branded the movement as treasonous. Nevertheless, the motivations propelling the movement forward are robust and will only intensify as South Africa contends with increasing political and economic instability. If the movement continues to be disregarded by the national government, supporters have asserted they will appeal to the international community for action or even declare a unilateral declaration of independence after gaining power in local government. This is when tensions could escalate. But how can the Cape independence movement become dangerous? Many believe that the efforts and discussions advocating for an independence referendum in the Western Cape must not be dismissed but actively addressed and opposed due to the significant danger it presents. First and foremost, if such a referendum were to succeed, the consequences would be troublesome for the whole of South Africa and Africa in general. It's widely recognized that there are factions of proto-nationalists lurking beneath the surface, eagerly awaiting an opportunity to divide South Africa along ethnic and racial lines. People need to think about the chaos that would unfold if these elements were to emerge following a successful referendum, demanding independence throughout the country. It would lead to absolute turmoil. However, South Africans must not underestimate the gravity of this issue. It extends beyond its borders, as neighboring countries harbor similar factions claiming its land for historical reasons. If this referendum were to succeed, it would set off explosions across the subcontinent, as other South Africans would undoubtedly oppose such movements. So what is being done now about Cape independence? Back in 2023, the Western Cape Powers Bill was presented, which was designed to bolster the authority of the Western Cape government and local municipalities within the province. In other words, it was a method to support the Cape Independence Party by offering the white population more powers. It aimed to extend the province's powers by obtaining additional authority from the national government in key areas such as policing, public transport, energy, trade, and harbor control. Specifically, the bill prioritized affirming the Western Cape's existing constitutional rights as a province, while also advocating for the delegation or assignment of new powers from the national government. However, the bill stirred up controversy, with opposition parties, notably the African National Congress and the Economic Freedom Fighters, expressing criticism. The ANC called it a step backward for democratic South Africa. The Democratic Alliance stated that this bill establishes a framework for the province to fully assert its existing constitutional and legislative powers. It also seeks to secure more powers delegated from the national government. The bill not only permits but requires the provincial government to intervene to the fullest extent possible when the national government fails to fulfill its duties. That's precisely what the Cape Independence Party wants. It wants to have Cape Town, where it can rule as it wants. The ANC, led by its national spokesperson, Malengi Bengumotsiri, called on South Africans to oppose the bill, labeling it unconstitutional and driven by right-wing ideologies associated with the apartheid era. The ANC said that this bill was an unconstitutional action of the Western Cape government. Further, it was said that it's concerning to see the Western Cape aligning with right-wing factions and positioning itself as a supporter of the apartheid regime. The ANC argues that the bill violates the country's constitution and aims to revive the apartheid-era policies. Additionally, the party claimed that legal experts have indicated that the bill lacks the necessary legal foundation to justify its legislative authority, rendering it unconstitutional. However, Phil Craig, a white man and the leader of the referendum party, expressed support for the independence of the Western Cape province. He said that in general terms, the referendum party backs the Western Cape Provincial Powers Bill as a step in the right direction, as Cape independence is based on the desire for Western Cape residents, the majority of whom have never voted ANC, to shape their own future. So, what will the future of Cape independence be? Well, it's possible that the Cape Independence Party will continue to demand the separation of Cape Town from South Africa. However, it's deeply troubling to even suggest to the people of South Africa that a segment of its nation could be partitioned off to become politically, historically, economically, and socially separate from the rest. Until the Cape Independence Party understands this and finds a solution that will resolve problems in the true sense, nothing will happen. In any case, it's highly unlikely and next to impossible that Cape Town will be separated from the rest of South Africa. It's because once we entertain the notion that division and capitulation are the only options, the goal of uniting South Africans no longer remains. What do you think? How the South African government should deal with the white people who want to divide South Africa? Isn't it true that the Cape Independence movement is not more than a white people-led movement that wants a failed and divided South Africa? In the comment section right below, share your thoughts on who might be behind these white South Africans demanding an independent Cape Town. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.